The scent of rosemary and thyme lingered in Grandma's kitchen long after she was gone. I stood there, running my fingers along the worn edges of her recipe box, while the sounds of the wake drifted in from the living room. My name is Delilah, and today I buried the woman who taught me that love tastes like butter cookies, and healing comes in the form of chicken soup. You shouldn't be in here alone. Mia's voice cut through my thoughts. My sister stood in the doorway, her black dress perfectly pressed, not a hair out of place. Mom's looking for you. The lawyer's here. I nodded, clutching the recipe box closer. I'll be right there. Put that down, she snapped. It's not yours to take. The living room fell silent as I entered. Mom and Dad sat rigid on the couch, while our family lawyer, Mr. Patterson, arranged papers on the coffee table. Mia slid into place beside them, leaving me standing alone. Let's begin. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. Regarding the estate of Margaret Rose, I barely heard the standard legal jargon, my mind drifting to Sunday mornings in this very room, watching Grandma roll out pie dough while sharing stories of her own childhood. The lawyer's voice suddenly sharpened, pulling me back. And to my granddaughter Delilah, I leave my complete collection of recipes, including all secret family recipes, with the hope that she'll continue my legacy of bringing joy through food. What? Mia's shriek pierced the air. That's impossible. Mom's face turned stone cold. There must be some mistake. Those recipes belong to the family restaurant. They're meant for Mia. The will is quite clear. Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Rose was explicit about her wishes. Dad stood up, his face red. Delilah, you must have known about this. What did you say to her? Nothing. I stepped back, shocked by the accusation. Grandma and I just cooked together. We talked, that's all. Talked? Mia laughed bitterly. More like manipulated. You knew she was sick. You took advantage. That's not true. My voice cracked. Grandma taught me everything I know about cooking. It was our thing. Your thing? Mom's voice dripped with venom. Mia's the one who's been running the diner. She's the one who deserves those recipes. You abandoned the family business for some corporate job. I didn't abandon anything. I just chose a different path. Well, congratulations. Mia spat, tears streaming down her face. You got what you wanted. I hope you're happy. The room spun as my family turned against me, their words becoming a blur of accusations and threats. Mr. Patterson awkwardly gathered his papers, making a hasty exit. If you keep these recipes, Dad's voice cut through the chaos, you're no longer welcome in this family. I felt the blood drain from my face. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Mom stood beside him. Give the recipes to Mia, or get out. My hands trembled as I held the recipe box. These weren't just recipes. They were memories, lessons, love letters written in measurements and cooking times. Each card held Grandma's handwriting, her notes, her secrets. No, I whispered, then louder. No, Grandma wanted me to have these. She chose me. Then you've made your choice. Mom turned away. Leave. Mia's triumphant smirk was the last thing I saw as I walked out of my childhood home, clutching the recipe box to my chest. The spring air felt cold against my tear-stained face. My phone buzzed. A text from Zane. How did it go? I couldn't type through the tears, so I called him instead. They disowned me, I choked out. Over recipes. I'm coming to get you, he said without hesitation. Where are you? Outside the house. Zane. What am I supposed to do now? First, we're getting you out of there. Then we're going to figure this out together. His voice softened. Your grandmother believed in you, Del. Maybe it's time you showed them why. I looked back at the house, at the window of the kitchen, where I'd spent countless hours learning at Grandma's side. My sister's words echoed in my head. I hope you're happy. No, I wasn't happy, but I was angry. And for the first time in my life, I felt dangerous. Zane, I said, my voice steadying. I think I know what I need to do. Yeah? I'm going to open my own restaurant. I paused, a plan forming. Right across the street from their diner, the silence on the other end lasted only a moment before Zane laughed. Now that's the Delilah I know. I'm in. whatever you need. As his car pulled up, I took one last look at my family's house. They thought they were punishing me, but they'd actually set me free. Grandma had given me more than recipes. She'd given me a chance to prove myself, and I was going to take it. "You're really going through with this," Zane whistled, staring at the empty storefront across from my family's diner. 3 months had passed since the funeral, and I'd just signed the lease. "Watch me," I said, unlocking the front door. The space was dusty and bare, but I could already see it transformed. Warm lighting, rustic wooden tables, the open kitchen where I'd bring Grandma's recipes to life. "Your resignation email to the bank was legendary, by the way," Zane grinned, following me inside. "Thank you for the opportunity to waste 3 years of my culinary passion in corporate finance." I laughed, running my hand along the old counter. "Well, it's not like I was planning to use them as a reference." The bell above the door chimed, and a woman in her 60s walked in. "I saw you two looking around. Are you opening a restaurant?" "That's the plan," I smiled. "I'm Delilah." "Laurel." She extended her hand. "I've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years. That diner across the street used to be the heart of this community." "Used to be?" Laurel's eyes crinkled. "Ever since Margaret passed, it hasn't been the same. The food's lost its soul." My chest tightened. Margaret was my grandmother. Was she now? Laurel studied me carefully. She used to talk about her granddaughter, who could recreate her recipes perfectly. "Said you had the gift." "That's definitely Del," Zane chimed in. "You should taste her food." "Well then," Laurel smiled warmly. "Looks like this neighborhood might get its heart back after all. When do you open?" 6 weeks, I said confidently, though my stomach churned at the thought. The next month and a half passed in a blur of contractors, permits, and endless taste testing sessions. Zane helped me design a menu that honored Grandma's classics while adding my own modern twists. Every morning, I'd arrive early to test recipes, watching my family's diner come to life across the street. The night before opening, I was alone in the kitchen when someone pounded on the front door. Through the glass, I saw Mia's face, contorted with anger. I opened the door. "We're not open yet." "You think this is funny?" she snarled, shoving a copy of my menu at me. "Grandma's famous pot pie? Her signature meatballs? Those are our recipes." "No," I corrected her. "They're my recipes now, legally." "You're trying to destroy us." "I'm trying to build something of my own." "By stealing our customers," Mia's voice cracked. "Mom and Dad are barely making ends meet, and you're doing this." For a moment, I wavered. Then I remembered the day they threw me out. "You made your choice, now I'm making mine." Opening night arrived with a line around the block. I'd spent the morning watching my family peer through their windows, whispering among themselves. Now, standing in my kitchen, I took a deep breath. "Ready?" Zane asked, tying his apron. "Born ready." The first order came in, Grandma's pot pie. As I worked, muscle memory took over. I could almost feel her hands guiding mine, hear her voice. "Cooking isn't just about food, dear. It's about love." "Order up," I called, sliding the golden brown pie across the pass. Laurel was among our first customers, sitting at the counter where she could watch me work. When she took her first bite, tears welled in her eyes. "Just like Margaret's," she whispered. "Maybe even better." The night flew by in a whirlwind of orders and compliments. Near closing time, a young man approached the kitchen. "The chef herself," he smiled. "I'm Rocco. That was the best meal I've had in years." "Thank you," I blushed, noticing his warm brown eyes. "I'll definitely be back," he said, leaving his number scrawled on a napkin. After the last customer left, I stepped outside for air. Across the street, my family's diner was nearly empty. Dad stood in their doorway, staring at my packed restaurant. Our eyes met for a moment before he turned away. "Quite a night." Zane joined me, handing me a glass of champagne. "How does it feel?" I watched my father disappear inside their diner, remembering countless family dinners, birthdays, celebrations. Now here I was, their competition, their enemy. It feels, I searched for the right word, complicated. Success usually is. Zane clinked his glass against mine. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, I echoed, but my voice wavered. As we headed back inside, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different somehow, stronger, harder. The soft-spoken banker was gone, replaced by someone who knew exactly what she wanted. But as I locked up for the night, watching the lights go out across the street, I wondered if what I wanted was what I needed. Grandma's voice echoed in my head. Cooking is about love. Was it still love if you used it to hurt the people who hurt you? I didn't have an answer, not yet. But tomorrow would bring another day of cooking, another chance to figure it out. And maybe, just maybe, a visit from the guy with the warm brown eyes. 3 months into running my restaurant, I couldn't ignore the changes across the street. The lunch rush at my family's diner had dwindled to a handful of regulars, and their open sign flickered weakly in the afternoon sun. Your butternut squash ravioli is divine, Rocco said, leaning against the kitchen counter. He'd become a regular, stopping by almost daily, usually during the quiet afternoon hours. Grandma's recipe, I smiled, sliding him an extra portion, with a few tweaks. Speaking of which, he nodded toward the window. Your sister's heading this way, and she looks mad. The door burst open before I could respond. Mia stormed in, her face flushed and hair disheveled, a far cry from her usually polished appearance. We need to talk, she demanded, ignoring Rocco completely. I'm working, Mia. Now. She grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the office. I've got the kitchen, Zane called out, reading the situation. Once inside, Mia slammed the door. Are you happy now? We had to let go of 3 servers this week. That's not my problem, I said, though my stomach tightened. Not your problem, she laughed hysterically. You're destroying our family. Dad's talking about selling the diner. Mom can barely sleep. Is this what you wanted? What I wanted, my voice rose. I wanted my family to support me. I wanted you all to see me as more than just the responsible older sister who gave up her dreams to work at a bank. Oh, poor Delilah, Mia mocked. Always the victim. You know what? You're just like Mom. Cold, calculating, willing to hurt anyone to get what you want. The comparison stung more than she knew. Get out. The truth hurts, doesn't it? She stepped closer. Grandma would be ashamed of what you've done with her recipes. Something snapped inside me. Grandma chose me. She saw something in me that none of you ever did. And you know what? Your food isn't failing because of my competition. It's failing because you never bothered to learn from her like I did. Mia's hand flew up, but I caught her wrist before she could slap me. We stood frozen, both breathing heavily, years of resentment crackling between us. Everything okay in here? Rocco's voice came from the doorway. Mia yanked her hand away, tears streaming down her face. You're not the only one who loved her, Delilah. You're not the only one who lost her. She pushed past Rocco and fled. I slumped against my desk, shaking. Want to talk about it? Rocco asked softly. Not really. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. I should get back to the kitchen, but instead of returning to work, I found myself walking to the front window, watching Mia cross the street. She paused outside the diner, composing herself before going in. Through the window, I could see Mom comforting her, both of them looking across at my restaurant, with identical expressions of hurt and anger. You know, Rocco said, standing beside me, success tastes different when it's seasoned with revenge. I'm not looking for fortune cookie wisdom right now. He chuckled. Fair enough. But as someone who's watched you cook, I can tell you that your food is best when you're cooking with joy, not anger. Joy. I turned to face him. My family disowned me. They chose Mia over me, like they always have. What's there to be joyful about? The fact that you're living your dream? He gestured around the restaurant. That you're creating something beautiful? That people line up every day to taste your food? Before I could respond, Laurel appeared at my elbow. He's right, you know. Your grandmother didn't give you those recipes to wage war. She gave them to you because you understand what she did. That food brings people together. Well, it's doing a great job of tearing my family apart, I muttered. Is it? Laurel raised an eyebrow. Or are you? The lunch rush started picking up, saving me from having to answer. But as I cooked, I kept glancing across the street. Dad was at the register, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Mom moved between tables with none of her usual energy. And Mia looked lost, nothing like the confident sister who'd always overshadowed me. Order up, I called, sliding a plate of Grandma's famous meatballs across the pass. The recipe card was worn and stained, covered in her neat handwriting. At the bottom, she'd written something I'd never noticed before. Remember, darling, the secret ingredient is forgiveness. I stared at the words until Zane nudged me. Earth to Dell? We've got orders backing up. Right, I shook my head, returning to work, but Grandma's words stayed with me, along with the image of my sister's tears, my father's tired face, my mother's worried eyes. Success, it turned out, tasted a lot like loneliness. The knock came just as I was closing up for the night. Through the glass door, I saw my mother's silhouette, looking smaller than I remembered. For a moment, I considered pretending I hadn't heard. I know you're in there, Delilah, she called out, her voice muffled. I opened the door. We're closed. I'm not here as a customer. She stepped inside, clutching her purse like a shield. Can we talk? I led her to a table, painfully aware of how she studied everything. The decor, the layout, the gleaming kitchen visible through the pass. Her eyes lingered on the wall where I'd hung Grandma's old rolling pin. Coffee, I offered, mostly to break the silence. Please. I busied myself with the coffee maker, watching her from the corner of my eye. She looked tired, her usually perfect makeup slightly smudged, her clothes wrinkled. Here, I set 2 cups down and sat across from her. Why are you here, Mom? She wrapped her hands around the mug. We're selling the diner. The words hit like a physical blow. What? We can't compete, she said simply. Your father's talking to a developer tomorrow. But the diner's been in the family for 3 generations. She cut me off. Don't pretend you care now. I stood up, anger flaring. Don't pretend this is my fault. You're the ones who threw me out because we were scared. Her outburst shocked us both. She took a shaky breath. We were scared you'd do exactly what you did. What's that supposed to mean? Look around, Delilah. You're successful, you're thriving, and she gestured vaguely across the street. We're failing, just like we knew we would if you got those recipes. I sat back down, stunned. You thought I'd succeed. A bitter laugh escaped her. Of course we did. You're your grandmother's granddaughter. You have her gift, her passion. Mia, she paused. Mia tries so hard, but she doesn't have what you have. Then why push her into running the diner? Because she wanted it so badly. Because she's always lived in your shadow, even if you never saw it that way. Mom took a sip of coffee, her hands trembling slightly. We thought if we could just give her this one thing, you'd make up for her not being me. The words came out sharper than intended. We thought we were protecting both of you. She met my eyes. We were wrong. The silence stretched between us, filled with years of misunderstandings and unspoken words. I have a confession, Mom finally said. The night before the will reading, I begged your grandmother to leave the recipes to Mia. My chest tightened. What did she say? She laughed, said I was trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Mom's eyes welled up. She said Mia needed to find her own path, and you needed to stop hiding yours. I wasn't hiding. Working at a bank? Really, Delilah? She shook her head. You were miserable there. At least I was making you proud. Proud? Mom looked genuinely surprised. We were worried. Your father used to say it was like watching a bird pretend to be a fish. A laugh bubbled up unexpectedly. Dad said that. He says a lot of things now, mostly about how much he misses your Sunday breakfasts. The mention of our old tradition made my throat tight. Every Sunday, I'd cook breakfast for the family. Experiments that sometimes failed spectacularly, but always made Dad smile. Why are you really here, Mom? She reached into her purse and pulled out a worn envelope. Your grandmother left this for me, with instructions to open it when I finally got my head out of my behind. Her words. She slid it across the table. Read it. The letter was short, written in Grandma's familiar handwriting. Presley, my stubborn daughter. By now, you've probably realized what a mess you've made. Your girls aren't chess pieces to be moved around a board. Delilah has my gift, yes, but Mia has your business sense, the same sense that kept our diner running when your father died. Together, they could be extraordinary. Apart, well, you're seeing how that's working out. Fix this. Love, Mom. I looked up to find my mother crying silently. She was right, Mom whispered. About everything. We were so focused on who deserved what, we forgot what made the diner special in the first place. Family. It's not that simple anymore. No, she agreed, standing up. But it could be a start. She headed for the door, then paused. Your coffee's better than mine ever was. Grandma would be proud. After she left, I sat alone in my empty restaurant, staring at Grandma's letter until the words blurred. Across the street, the diner's lights were still on, a single figure visible through the window. Mia, counting out the day's meager receipts. Grandma's words echoed in my head. Together, they could be extraordinary. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message to Zane. Need your help with a crazy idea. His response came immediately. Those are my favorite kind. The sound of breaking glass jolted me awake. I rushed downstairs to my restaurant's kitchen to find Mia standing among the shattered remains of what used to be my front door, mascara streaking down her face. Mia, what the hell? I quit. She waved an empty wine bottle. I finally quit. Told Mom and Dad I'm done pretending. You're drunk. Yep. She stumbled to a bar stool. Turns out you need actual talent to run a restaurant. Who knew? I grabbed the bottle before she could swing it again. Let me call you a cab. No. She grabbed my arm. I need to say this while I'm brave enough. Her eyes, though glazed, fixed on mine. I hate you. Okay, definitely time to go. No, listen. I hate you because you're exactly who you're supposed to be. You got Grandma's talent, her passion, she gestured wildly, her everything. And what did I get? Her name. Margaret Mia. Like that would somehow make me more like her. I sank onto the stool next to her. Mia. You know what's worse than failing? She laughed bitterly. Failing at something you never wanted in the first place. What are you talking about? You loved the diner. I loved making Mom and Dad happy. I loved feeling special for once. She slumped forward. Did you know I applied to art school? This was news to me. When? Senior year. Got accepted too. But then Mom started talking about how you were wasting your potential at the bank and how the diner needed a successor. She wiped her eyes. I thought if I could just be good enough, they'd finally see me instead of your shadow. I never knew. Of course you didn't. You were too busy being perfect. I couldn't help but laugh. Perfect? Mia, I spent years trying to compete with you. You were always the favorite. The favorite? She looked genuinely shocked. They literally disowned you. Because they believed in me enough to be threatened. The words came out before I could stop them. Mom told me everything. They knew I'd succeed. Mia stared at me for a long moment, then burst into tears. God, we're so messed up. I found myself laughing through my own tears. Yeah, we really are. Remember when we were kids? Mia sniffled. How we used to sneak into Grandma's kitchen at night and make those horrible pancake experiments. The peanut butter and pickle disaster. Mom was so mad about the mess. But Grandma just laughed. I smiled at the memory. Said creativity needs room to fail. She always knew what to say. Mia's voice softened. I miss her so much. Me too. We sat in silence for a while, the first comfortable silence we'd shared in years. I saw your paintings, I finally said. The ones you posted online. She looked up, surprised. You follow my art account. Of course I do. You're really good, Mia. Like, seriously good. Not good enough to make a living. Says who? Your latest piece got hundreds of likes. Yeah, well, she gestured around my restaurant. This got hundreds of customers. We can't all be successful rebels. I took a deep breath. What if we could be? What? What if? I hesitated, then plunged ahead. What if we combined our talents, your business sense, my cooking, your art, my food, something completely new? She squinted at me suspiciously. Are you drunk too? I'm serious. Grandma left me a message through Mom. She said together we could be extraordinary. Together, Mia scoffed. We can barely be in the same room. We're in the same room now. Because I broke in, while drunk. Details. I waved dismissively. The point is, we're talking, really talking, maybe for the first time in years. Mia was quiet for a moment. I designed a whole restaurant concept once, just for fun. Modern art gallery meets casual dining. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. I grabbed a napkin and started sketching. We could showcase local artists, have rotating exhibits, monthly themed menus based on the artwork, special events where food and art intersect. We spent the next hour brainstorming, the years of resentment temporarily forgotten, in a burst of creative energy. As the sun began to rise, Mia sobered enough to look embarrassed about the door. I'll pay for that, she mumbled. You'll work it off, I corrected. If you're serious about this. She met my eyes. Are you serious about working together? Terrified but serious. Me too. She stood up shakily. I should go face Mom and Dad. Want backup? No, she smiled slightly. But maybe we could all talk, later, when I'm not hungover and you're not enabling my vandalism. Deal. I helped her to the door, carefully avoiding the glass. Hey Mia, for what it's worth, I never hated you. I just missed my sister. Yeah, she whispered. I missed you too. You want to do what? Laurel set down her coffee cup, staring at me across the counter. The morning sun streamed through the newly replaced front door, creating patterns on the floor. Merge the restaurants, I repeated. Turn them into something new. With the same family that disowned you. She raised an eyebrow. Honey, have you lost your mind? Probably. I wiped down the counter, avoiding her gaze. Mia and I talked last night. Really talked. After she broke your door. Minor detail. Delilah. Laurel's voice turned serious. I've watched you build this place from nothing. Are you sure you want to risk it all? Before I could answer, Rocco slid onto the stool next to her. Risk is just opportunity in disguise. Nobody asked you, Romeo, Laurel shot back. But she was smiling. Actually, I took a deep breath. I wanted both of your opinions. You've become like family to me these past months. More family than your actual family, Laurel muttered. That's the point, I insisted. Maybe it's time to fix that. The door chimed, and Zane burst in, waving his phone. Dell, you need to see this. He pulled up Mia's art account, showing me her latest post. It was a digital sketch of a restaurant interior, modern, elegant, with art-lined walls and innovative seating arrangements. The caption read, Dreams of collaboration with Delilah's Kitchen. Time to heal old wounds. It's already got thousands of likes, Zane said. People are going crazy for the concept. It's beautiful. Rocco leaned in. She's talented. She is. I agreed softly. She always was. We just never gave her the chance to show it. Well, Laurel stood up, straightening her jacket. If you're determined to do this, you'll need help negotiating with your parents. You're offering? I was a business lawyer for 40 years before retiring. Plus, she winked, I've got no emotional stake in this mess. I'll be your neutral party. I'll handle the menu planning, Zane chimed in. We can blend your grandmother's classics with some modern twists. And I, Rocco caught my hand, will be here to remind you to breathe. The bell chimed again. This time, my parents stood in the doorway, Mia hovering nervously behind them. We saw the post, Dad said gruffly. The kitchen suddenly felt very small. Laurel squeezed my shoulder and stepped forward. I'm Laurel Willis, and I'll be mediating this discussion. Shall we sit? We gathered around one of the larger tables, an awkward collection of past and present, hurt and hope. Mom couldn't stop staring at the rolling pin on the wall. Before we start, I said, I need to know something. Are you here because you want to be, or because you're desperate? Both, Dad answered honestly. We're losing the diner, but seeing you and Mia talking again. He cleared his throat. Maybe we've all been too stubborn. Maybe? Mom's laugh was watery. We've been idiots. Speak for yourself. Mia attempted a joke, but her hands were shaking. Laurel took charge. Let's establish some ground rules. Everyone speaks without interruption. All feelings are valid. All past grievances must be addressed before moving forward. Agreed? We nodded. Good. She turned to my parents. You first. Why did you really give Mia the diner? Because we thought we were protecting both of them, Mom admitted. We saw how talented Delilah was, how naturally it came to her. We worried Mia would always feel second best. Instead, Dad added, we made everyone miserable. Your turn. Laurel nodded to Mia and me. I felt trapped, Mia blurted out. Like I had to be someone I'm not. And I felt rejected, I added. Like my passion was a threat. The truth hung heavy in the air. Now, Laurel pulled out a notebook. Let's talk solutions. Mia's design concept is excellent. Delilah's culinary reputation is solid. The question is, can you all work together without falling back into old patterns? Yes, Mia said firmly, because this time we're choosing our roles. I want to handle the business side, the design, the marketing. Let Del be the chef she was meant to be. And the original diner location, Laurel pressed. It's bigger, I offered, better parking. We could renovate, make it match Mia's vision. Using both our savings, Mia added, equal partnership. Dad reached for Mom's hand. We'd step back, consult when needed, but let you girls take the lead. And the recipes? Mom asked quietly. I pulled out Grandma's recipe box. They belong to the family, all of us. Laurel sat back, satisfied. Looks like we have a framework. Shall we discuss details? As the conversation turned to logistics, I caught Mia's eye across the table. She smiled, a real smile, like when we were kids sharing secrets. Maybe Grandma knew exactly what she was doing when she left me those recipes. Maybe sometimes you have to break something completely to build it back stronger. You okay? Rocco whispered. I watched my family, all of them, old and new, planning our future together. Yeah, I smiled. I really am. The renovated diner buzzed with nervous energy as we prepared for our family dinner. The first test run before the grand reopening. Mia had transformed the space into something magical. Exposed brick walls, showcased local artwork, Edison bulbs cast warm light across reclaimed wood tables, and the open kitchen gleamed with new equipment. Stop fiddling with the place settings. Rocco gently pulled me away from the table I'd adjusted for the 10th time. Everything's perfect. Is it? I gestured at the elaborate spread I'd prepared. Maybe the menu's too ambitious. Maybe you're overthinking it, Zane called from the kitchen. It's just dinner. Just dinner? I laughed. It's our first family meal in 8 months. The door chimed. Mom and Dad entered, carrying a bottle of wine and looking as nervous as I felt. Behind them came Laurel, who'd insisted on being present, just in case. Wow, Dad whispered, taking in the changes. This is something else. Mia emerged from her office, tablet in hand. Wait until you see the private dining room. I've got rotating exhibits planned for local artists, and later, Laurel interrupted. Food first, drama later. We settled around the table. Parents, sisters, friends, turned family. The silence felt heavy with unspoken words. Well, I stood up. I thought we could start with Grandma's famous. Actually, Mia cut in. Before we eat, I have something to show everyone. She pulled out a large wrapped package. I've been working on this for weeks. She unveiled a painting. The old diner on one side, my restaurant on the other, merging in the middle into something new and beautiful. In the center, barely visible, unless you looked closely, was Grandma's silhouette in the kitchen. Mom burst into tears. It's not that bad, is it? Mia joked weakly. It's perfect, Mom choked out. It's exactly what she would have wanted. Speaking of what she would have wanted, I hurried to the kitchen and returned with a covered dish. Remember how we never could figure out her secret ingredient in the meatballs? Dad leaned forward. You didn't. I did. I lifted the cover. Turns out it wasn't an ingredient at all. It was about timing. Letting them rest in the sauce for exactly 47 minutes. 47. Mia frowned. That's so specific. That was the year she married Grandpa, Mom whispered. She always said he was worth the wait. We passed the dishes around, Grandma's classics, with my modern twists, each one carrying a story, a memory. Remember when Delilah tried to make these for my 10th birthday? Mia laughed, biting into a meatball, and set off the smoke alarm? Remember when you tried to help and added sugar instead of salt? I shot back. Girls, Dad started in his warning tone, then caught himself. Sorry, old habit. It's okay. I smiled. We're not those girls anymore. No, Mom looked between us proudly. You're so much more. Rocco raised his glass. To new beginnings. And old recipes, Zane added. And family, Laurel finished firmly. The tension finally broke. We ate. We laughed, we shared stories, some funny, some painful, all part of our history. As dinner wound down, Dad cleared his throat. I owe you both an apology, he said. I was so focused on preserving tradition that I forgot what that tradition was really about. Which was, Mia prompted. Love, he said simply. Your grandmother didn't build this place for profit. She built it to bring people together. Well, I gestured around the renovated space. I'd say we're finally doing that right. About that, Mia pulled out her tablet again. Our social media response has been insane. We've got reservations booked 3 months out. Already? Mom looked shocked. People love the concept, Mia beamed. Art meets comfort food. Tradition meets innovation. Plus, she winked at me. Having a local celebrity chef doesn't hurt. Celebrity, I scoffed. Hardly. Check your Instagram, Rocco nudged me. That video of you teaching Mia to make soufflés went viral. Only because I dropped 3 before getting it right, Mia laughed. But you got it right, I reminded her. That's what matters. Later, as we cleared the dishes, Dad picked up Grandma's rolling pin from its display. She'd be proud, he said. Not just of the restaurant, but of you two. Finding your own way, then finding your way back to each other. Think we can make it work? I asked. Together, he smiled. I think you already are. Looking around at our mismatched family, Mia discussing art installations with Mom, Zane teaching Laurel how to properly plate a dessert, Rocco sneaking tastes of leftover sauce, I felt something settle in my chest. This was what Grandma meant about food bringing people together. This was what her recipes were really about. Hey Del, Mia called out. Ready to show them the surprise dessert? I grinned. Only if you help me serve it. Deal, she said. And this time, it felt like a promise we could keep. Order up, I called out, sliding 2 plates across the pass. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mia directing a crew, hanging her latest artwork. A triptych celebrating local food artisans. The dinner rush was in full swing at our newly renamed restaurant, Legacy. The blend of art gallery and eatery had struck a chord with the community, bringing in a diverse crowd that filled both our dining room and our hearts. Chef, Zane appeared at my elbow. That food critic is here again. 3rd time this month, I grinned. Think she's trying to catch us on a bad day. Good luck with that, he laughed, then lowered his voice. Your parents just walked in, too. I glanced out to see Mom and Dad settling into their usual corner table. They came in most evenings now, not to check up on us anymore, but simply to enjoy being part of the atmosphere they'd helped create. Delilah, Mia burst into the kitchen, her eyes bright. You have to come see this. Kind of busy here, I gestured at the tickets lining the pass. Trust me, it's worth it. She grabbed my arm. Zane can handle the line for 2 minutes. She dragged me to the private dining room, where a small crowd had gathered around her newest installation. As we approached, I stopped dead in my tracks. The wall featured a series of photographs, decades of family moments in the old diner. Grandma teaching me to knead bread, Mia's first attempt at waiting tables, Mom and Dad on their anniversary, all arranged around a central piece. Grandma's handwritten recipe for her famous meatballs. How did you? I touched the framed recipe card gently. Found it in an old box while cleaning out the storage room, Mia explained. But look closer. At the bottom of the recipe, beneath Grandma's familiar handwriting, was a note I'd never seen before. To my girls, separate ingredients make a meal, but only love makes it memorable. Never forget that you're stronger together. She knew, I whispered. She knew this would happen. Of course she did. Laurel's voice came from behind us. That woman had more wisdom in her little finger than most people have in their whole body. Did you know about this? I asked Mia, pointing to the installation. It was Mom's idea, actually. She's been collecting photos for weeks. A commotion from the main dining room drew our attention. Rocco was leading a group of customers through, explaining the concept behind our rotating art exhibits. And here we have our latest installation. He gestured to the wall, then caught sight of us. Ah, and here are the artists themselves, both culinary and visual. The customers murmured appreciatively, snapping photos of the display. One elderly woman stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I remember your grandmother, she said. She catered my wedding 40 years ago. Best meal of my life. Until tonight, I promised, earning a laugh from the group. Back in the kitchen, I found a surprise of my own waiting. Dad had donned an apron and was expertly plating desserts alongside Zane. What? He shrugged at my expression. Can't an old man help out? The health inspector might have something to say about that, I teased. Good thing I renewed my food handler's license then. I stopped. You did what? Well, he focused intently on the chocolate garnish he was placing. Thought I might make myself useful, if you'll have me. Every Sunday, I decided. That's brunch rush. Think you can handle it? His smile was answer enough. The evening wound down slowly, the last customers lingering over coffee and dessert. Mom had joined Mia in discussing future exhibitions with local artists. Laurel held court at the counter, sharing stories with regulars about the old days of the neighborhood. Quite a family you've got there, Rocco said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Quite a mess we made first, I corrected. Best kind of family recipe. He kissed my cheek. Lots of ingredients, plenty of heat, and just the right amount of time to let it all come together. I watched as Mia showed Mom her sketches for next month's menu design. Their heads bent together in concentration. Dad emerged from the kitchen, flour on his shirt and pride in his eyes. Zane was teaching Laurel's grandson how to properly hold a chef's knife. The recipe card in the display caught my eye again. Grandma had known that sometimes the best dishes need to break down completely before they can become something better. She'd given me her recipes not as a weapon, but as a bridge, a way to bring us all back together when we were ready. Hey, Mia called out. We're thinking of doing a cookbook, family recipes, stories, your techniques, my illustrations. What do you think? I looked around at our beautiful mess of a family restaurant, at the love we'd managed to cook up from the ashes of our anger. I smiled. Grandma would say it's about time. Then let's get started, she grinned, pulling out her sketchbook. I've got some ideas. And just like that, we began writing our next chapter together, one recipe at a time.